Hello friends, my name is Yapkash Pathak and you're watching me here on I Think Technologies. First of all, in this particular video, we are basically going to see how you can use a web API in your React application to fetch data from that API and show in your application. We'll be also learning how to show loaders till the data is coming from the API and all those cool stuff. So let's see how we can do this. First of all, few things to be noted. First of all, to use an API, we need an API. So we are not going to build that. We are going to see an API which is already built and we can use it. This is called news API and it is a very good API which you can use. First of all, it will give you all the news articles which you need and like uh, all the latest headlines, all those cool stuff and images too, which we will be showing in our application, and we'll be knowing we'll know how we can use that. So basically this is how it is. Then after that, what I wanted to tell you is that you have to go to the site, register. I think you are smart enough to you must be knowing how to register on this. So right, so go and register on the site and then go to this documentation section. Okay, so after registering, go to this documentation section, and here you can see in the endpoints we have various endpoints, top headlines, everything, sources, essentially all the things. So what we are interested in is top headlines. Okay, so here you have to focus on two things. First is the type of request, which is get request, and the endpoint, which is this one, this address. Okay, so this address is essentially going to give you all the data. Okay, that's something important. And after that, this is the data which you will be receiving, and here you must be thinking, oh man, we don't want this. What has happened? Okay, so here you can see this actually. So these are actually parameters, or you can say queries, which you are sending along with this endpoint in order to get a specific type of news article. So let me show you what do I mean by type. By type I mean country. So you can change the countries, you can change the category, you can change the source. So you can go to this, there's a source index, so you can go there and get all the list of sources, and you can tweak the sources from this. I am going to leave everything to the default and using this particular link to fetch the information. Okay, so that sounds cool. So after that, what's the plan? The plan is to and one more thing to be noted, I have already created a create React app, and it is up and running. Let me show you what does it have. It has nothing, blank app. Okay, so here's it is. Okay, so now the main part, how we'll be fetching the data from the API. So essentially they have two packages. First is node fetch package. Essentially node fetch, fetch function is available by default in browsers, but for a node application you can use node fetch package in order to get the same functionality. The other one is Axios, which is used almost I think 80 to 90% of the time. It is extremely famous, so we'll be using that Axios in our because that is very easy to use and it's very convenient. So let's see how we can do that. So essentially here we have our application extremely blank. I have removed all the previous code template which we get with create React app, so you actually also can do that. So essentially we will name our application news. By the way, if you don't know how to create a React app or how to do all those basic stuff, you can go to the previous videos in this series which have all those information. So that's great. So let's quickly do one thing. Let's create an h1 tag. Okay, and let's write news app inside that. So after doing that, if you go to the site, you'll see news app. Okay, that's cool. And for like our satisfaction, let's give some styling also. By the way, I'm not going to focus too much on the styling because this tutorial is basically will focus on the concept of how to fetch the data and how to handle certain kinds of problems which fetching data gives you. So all those stuff. Okay, so I think that makes sense. So style, padding, basically 20 pixel, basically 20 pixel. Okay, so that should make application like this. Okay, that's great. After that, what we want to do is we want to create a different component in which all the news will be entered. So let's create that component. So let's create a folder called components, ts components, that will contain all the components, and let's create a news uh, component that will have all the news which we want. And basically we'll be using snippets to import React and create a functional component. If you did not understand how those things came, let me tell you. Let's first do all the basic stuff. Okay, so if you didn't understand how does I generated this code so fast, that's pretty simple. I have already told in most of my previous tutorials also. You have to use a API, you have to use an extension called React, simple React snippets. Simply search that and you can use basically all these snippets to generate codes extremely quickly. That's cool. That's pretty dope. Okay, essentially after doing this, I just want to tell you that just think about it. When you think about fetching a data, that takes some time, right? So that takes some time in order to fetch the data. So you don't want to leave your user blank, give a blank screen when the data hasn't been fetched. So we'll be giving a loading animation sort of thing in order to show that something is coming. Just wait. Okay, so basically what we have done is you can go to this application called loading.io. Okay, this application will give you all sorts of free, basically these are free, and this little yellowish one are paid. So you can use any of these loaders for free. So you have to go there, and I think you have to register using your Google, Facebook account, something like that, and you can download this. I have downloaded the GIF version, and simply pasted this in my public img and this loading.gif. So this is basically, let me show you something like this. Okay, very simple, straightforward. Okay, so after this, basically what is the next process? The next process is simply to create simply to let's create that loading component which will be showing before the data came. So let's call it loading is equals to something like this, and return. Okay, and a div, basically a div, okay, which will have an image component, slash img slash loading dot jf, which you must be knowing already. If you don't, let me tell you that in the public folder, if you create anything that becomes an address, like this folder name img, that already becomes an address, and you can you can access any resources inside this by simply giving the URL, something like this. So this alt will be what to give, loading image. Okay, that's great. And let's remove this src set. We do not need this particular thing. And one more thing, let's specify a width which will be not like this, actually width which will be 50 pixel in our case, and height as well, which will be again 50 pixel in our case. That's great. Okay, after this also let's specify some styling over here. So we'll say style, and simply width will be basically 100%, and height will be basically 100, let's make it a little less, 80 vh vertical height, and let's say display flex. Now why we are writing this? Because we want this image to be at the center of this div, so that's why we are writing this. So display flex, and justified content center, and align items center. Okay, so that will essentially do this. So let's for just for testing, let's load this. Let's show this loading thing. So that should actually rebuild. No, we are not seeing anything till now. Okay, yeah, so we haven't put this news in our app, so let's do that. So let's go to the app component, and let's import this news component first. So news from dot slash components slash news. That's right. And let's show that over here. So news, okay, and here you can see this. That looks pretty dope, neat and clean. That's great. So we'll be showing this before the data came. Okay, so basically this one. So now finally let's come to the point of fetching the data, actual data. So we'll be just creating a state and call it data, which will essentially store all the data, and we'll call it set data is equal to use state. This is actually a hook. Okay, so if you want to know about React hooks, simply subscribe the channel. I'll be creating a video on this, so don't worry about that. Okay, so use state, and use state will contain what? It will contain null, because initially we will not have any data. Okay, and let's create one more, let's use one more React hooks, something like this. And let me tell you that this is the equivalent of component will mount. I think component will mount, no, component did mount or will mount, I think one of them. So this is the equivalent of that, and that this will actually fetch the data after the component is mounted. So component did mount, actually it is. So after the component mounts, this will fetch the data, and I'll show you what else happens. So let's quickly import the Axios first. So let's say import Axios from where? From Axios. Okay, so Axios, that's great. So Axios dot a get request at what is the URL, what is the location. Okay, so if you go to this is the endpoint at which everything is available, right? So let's paste this. Simple, right? Okay, so and then what you have to write is you have to write dot then. Okay, and after this thing is done, this the function inside this dot then will be called so let me show you what has been written over here. Dot then, actually once I save this file, this will actually auto format this. So this at this address, after this fetching is completed, after we get the data, we will this function will be called. Okay, so basically what we want to do is let's first log the data out. So data, okay, let's first log the data out so that we can see what we are doing. So here you can see all the data which we have got from that API over here, and basically that is into this data object inside that. So this contains all the articles. You can go to this articles, you can see all the articles, and basically this is how you fetch the data inside your application. But we don't have to only fetch it, we have to show it also. So let's simply do one thing. Let's say set data, we only care about the articles, so we'll say data dot data dot articles. Okay, that will that will do what, let me explain you. So essentially this whole thing is the data is inside the data folder. This has headers, config, which contains all the other information about the request, but this data has all the data which we received. Inside this data we have basically three things, I think: articles, status, and total result. Okay, so articles essentially contains all the articles, an array of all the articles. So this essentially will be an array of all the articles which we have fetched. That's something cool. Okay, and let's now let me tell you how you can now show that loading animation sort of thing. Hey man, wait, why have we done this everything in the news thing? We want to do everything in this news, right? Okay, let's do it. Let's cut everything from here, paste this over here. Okay, that was a small mistake. We want to fetch the data essentially in our news components. So yeah, okay, so let's cut that. Let's say import React from React over here. Okay, so this is not the place where we want to basically do this. So let's say React. Okay, so this is, I think, clear. This is all the imports. Okay, this is the loading component we have, and this is the place where we are fetching on component did mount. Okay, so I think that's clear. Okay, and this is the data. Okay, so basically we are setting the data. Okay, when after this after we receive the data. Now what we want to do is we want to show this loading animation only when this data is not null. That is only when the data is null. Actually, that means the data hasn't been fetched from the API. So let's do that. Okay, so let's cut that and simply say this is something cool. So data is equals to, if it is equals to null, question mark, simply render the loading component, else if that is not true, render this div component which I'm giving you. Okay, after this what we're going to do is basically let's say h1 news. Okay, we'll change that, don't worry. So basically I just want to show you like how does it works. Okay, there's some, okay, we have imported React 2 times, so let's remove this thing up. Okay, as you can see, news, it comes as soon as the fetching of the data finishes. News, can you see that? Yeah. So now let's do the final thing, which is finally showing the news. So let's create basically a component called news card. Okay, so news card, this will contain, and this needs a property called article. Now you must be familiar with props. This is actually object destructuring, which is a basic JavaScript feature. Okay, if you don't know about that, that's simply breaking a particular object into like its components. I hope so that makes sense. So inside this, what it will return, it will essentially return a div that will, okay, we have given curly bracket over there, which we should not. So let's quickly fix that thing. Okay, so inside this what do we want? We want an image which will have a source. Now from where do we get the source? Let's first remove this thing up. Now if you look at the data which we receive, let's copy this thing and paste this on our browser. If you receive the data which we receive, where is the data? Here's the data. This essentially have the article, and article has title, description, URL to image, and everything. Okay, now it is very pretty in my pretty, or looks good in my computer, because I have an extension called JSON viewer installed. So you can install this extension if you also want this to look similar to my computer. So what basically we'll do is we'll pass this article, and all these properties will be there inside that, and we'll be showing that. So let's do one thing. Let's place this at the one side, and let's collapse this thing. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is where's that? This is the source, right? So our source will be article dot URL to image. So let's copy that thing. This should be exact, otherwise this will create issues. So URL to, let's provide anything, URL to image. Well, providing that is extremely important, but for this tutorial let's name that as URL to image. Okay, so after that let's create a text part which will basically contain all the text. So it will have an h1 which will have article dot basically title. This will have the title. Then we'll have a p tag which will have the description. So article dot description, basically this thing. And after this there will be an anchor tag which will contain a link to read more, which is the URL over here. Let me show you that. Where is that? URL, that's the link to actual article from where it was placed. So article article dot URL. Okay, and let's name it read more. Okay, that will essentially solve the purpose. Okay, and one more thing, in this image, let's say width is equals to what's say 400. Okay, and let's style this a bit. So style is equals um, display flex uh, flex wrap wrap uh, uh, flex wrap box shadow uh, 1 pixel 15 pixel hash DDD. Essentially this is the thing, and just save this. Okay, and let's have a look. How does it look? Okay, this essentially we don't have anything because we haven't rendered this component news card anywhere. So let's do that first. Okay, we'll be styling this afterwards. So let's do one thing. Let's remove this news thing from here, and let's say data dot map. Now this will give you an article, and you can map through those articles. And let's return, you can return any JSX from this particular thing. So what I want to return is the thing called news, something like that. And what I want to do is give the article to this. And what is the article? Same article. And that should actually show all the articles over there. Now okay, so you can see all the articles. Basically, this is like that. So we have to apply a little bit of styling. You can see all the data. Basically we are getting all the data, so that's something great. Okay, so let's go here, and let's simply do display flex wrap. Let's remove this flex wrap. Display flex, basically okay, you can see that. And we also want some margin in this, so let's quickly put some margin. We want a 20 pixel margin all around. And one more thing, inside this thing we want some style, so that style will be basically padding, and we'll apply a padding of about 20 pixel from all around. So that should make it look a little bit better. Yeah, you can see basically our application is ready. To make it responsive, what we can do is you can provide this all sorts of things. So but like you can see, basically the concept of data fetching has been completed, and I hope so this tutorial was informative for you and helped you in some way. If that happened, don't forget to subscribe the channel and like this video. That would be amazing. I love if whoever does these things, and comment down any queries which you have. So thank you, have a great day, and see you guys later on.